Hello and welcome to the Nature Unplugged podcast, where we are all about cultivating consciousness in the digital age. Let's get going. Hello and welcome to the Nature Unplugged podcast with me, your host, Sebastian Sloven, and with me is guest host, co-host, Sonia Mohammed.
Hey, everybody.
What's happening, Sonia?
Not too much, Seb. What's happening with you?
Not too much. Just getting ready for a podcast here.
Yeah. Podcast time.
Podcast time. Okay, so today, you know, it's so exciting. We have Earth Day 2021 coming up in a couple days from the release of this podcast.
Yeah. I love Earth Day.
Earth Day is great. April 22nd, 2021. Get ready. So with the Earth Day theme in mind, today we are going to explore ways we can enjoy Mother Earth and do it in a caring and sustainable way.
That's lovely.
Isn't that sweet?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the best ways to do this that we found is by following the Leave No Trace principles. So that's what we're going to spend some time on. We're going to talk about Earth Day and then the Leave No Trace principles, also called LNT for short. And they're basically a way to, well, we'll get into this more, but it's basically a way to get out and do the wonderful things you like to do or we like to do in the great outdoors and make sure that future generations can enjoy the same kind of thing.
Yeah. Be less of like a Godzilla stomping all over plants and nature.
Less Godzilla, more butterfly.
Right.
Okay, Earth Day episode. You ready?
Yeah. Let's get going.
Let's get going. NU updates.
Great.
New updates. NU updates.
Yeah, so before we get going, we've got a few updates for you. We have been fortunate to get continued press and coverage of our recently released book, Experience Nature Unplugged, A Guide to Wellness in the Digital Age. East County Magazine just did a nice review of the book, and if you haven't seen it, we'd love for you to check it out. And if you want to grab a copy of the book, it's in paperback and ebook format, and it's available for purchase on Amazon and wherever books are sold. Also, as things are beginning to open up a bit, we are starting to schedule out some retreats and day trips for the summer.
Whoa.
I know, I'm very excited. I love trips and also strangely really like planning trips. So we'll keep you updated when dates are released and when registration opens.
Thank you, Sonia, for those updates.
My pleasure.
Great job on the updates, I just got to say. So, okay, let's get into it. So I wanted to start with talking about Earth Day.
Yes.
Because, you know, Earth Day, I didn't really know that much about Earth Day.
No, I'm excited for you to share with us and me a little bit about the history because I do not know it.
I did some research. It's going to blow your mind.
Okay, I'm ready.
It's actually not that. I won't go too deep. If I start getting too deep, just pull me out of the
Okay, the abyss.
The abyss. History of Earth Day. Dun, 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 dun. So, every year on April 22nd, it basically is the first Earth Day. It's the anniversary of the first Earth Day, which happened on April 22nd, 1970. Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting?
Well, yeah, but what is it anniversary? Like what? Tell me more.
Well, okay. So, back in the day, this is the late 60s, there was a senator named Gaylord Nelson.
Okay.
Junior senator from Wisconsin.
Got it.
He and some colleagues had been concerned about the, environmental state of the United States.
Okay.
Air pollution, water pollution. Mm-hmm. And around the same time, I guess there was a big oil spill in Santa Barbara off the coast. And they had like anti-war stuff going on at the same time. So they basically, this guy, Gaylord Nelson, and some colleagues thought about wanting to do like a national day in the U.S.
Okay.
And they wanted to really mobilize the students.
Cool. Empower and mobilize students.
Empower and mobilize students.
Love
So
it.
they chose April 22nd because it fell between spring break and final exams to really get the students
Smart.
going.
Yeah.
Anyway, lots of details, but basically they put together the first ever Earth Day, and I guess they got, over 200 million people. Oh no, sorry. I jumped ahead.
That's okay. Back it up.
Back it up. 20 million Americans.
Yeah, that's still
That's pretty good.
impressive. Yeah.
They said it was at the time 10% of the population participated in some way in Earth Day. Coast to coast, nationwide. People got into the streets, to the parks. I don't know, marched for Earth Day? Oh no.
And went into like some demonstrations, right? And it was all about just raising awareness, I guess.
Yeah, it was like environmental awareness, because at the time, again, there was, people were just charging forward with industry and all that stuff, and there was
Right.
not at the time, I guess, not that much attention on clean
Environmental
air, clean
stewardship.
water,
Got it.
etc.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
basically 1970, and they start going from then on. And then in 1990, April 22nd, 1990, Earth Day goes global. And that's when they got over 200 million people from 141 countries that kind of took to the world stage and celebrated the Earth.
That's great. So it's a global day,
It's a global day.
not just a U.S. day.
My
Great.
experience of Earth Day is kind of funny. It's like you go to parks and there's a lot of people doing like hacky sack and
Just
slacklining.
enjoying outside. Yeah.
And there's probably organic foods for sale, kombucha.
Yeah. Balboa Park in particular has, I think, a big celebration. Usually,
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing this year, but
I guess I was just less in touch with what like Earth Day was actually doing versus more just celebrating hacky sacks and stuff.
that's funny.
Maybe some frisbee.
Yeah. It
There's
was a
definitely
day
Frisbee.
of celebrating Frisbee and hacky sack was Sebastian's understanding of Earth Day until
apparently-
this podcast episode.
But apparently, okay, listen. Apparently, though, they're doing some really good stuff. The Earth
I
Day
believe
people.
it. I believe it.
Yeah, and
Okay,
I think
cool.
I guess now today,
Mm-hmm.
Earth Day. I guess they're saying this is according to the EarthDay.org website. Just
That sounds
FYI.
legit.
Sounds legit.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I'll link it in the show notes. But more than 1 billion people participate in some way in Earth Day every year. 1 billion.
Wonderful.
That's great.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
It is great.
Oh my goodness. So, okay, we got Earth Day. It's a big deal. But what does that mean to us? And I do like to say, I feel like a lot of people say this, but I think I've been saying this for a long time.
Okay. Probably since the 1960s when it started.
Every day is Earth Day. Pretty cheeseball.
Yeah. Not original, but true.
Not original, but true.
Yeah.
Nature Unplugged. Every day is Earth Day.
Yeah.
And I think that's the spirit of this episode, is talking about how, not just on April 22nd, but how can we every day bring the spirit of Earth Day to what we do? And of course, there's a lot of ways we can go with this. We could, Sonia's all fired up about sustainability. Well, we are in general, but Sonia in particular. Lots of stuff like reusable water bottles. There's so much stuff we can talk about, limiting our carbon footprint. But today, we're going to really talk about the Leave No Trace principles and how they can be great principles, a great environmental ethic to follow when going outside.
Yeah. I love LNT. I'm excited to talk about it. It's helpful. Because it's not overwhelming. It's enough things to sort of keep you aware and mindful of what you're doing, and also doesn't feel like, a novel of rules that you have to follow to be using the earth right?
Totally. And I think, again, the idea here is like, how can we do what we love, experience nature, get outside, adventure, and travel, and do it in a way that, our children, grandchildren, multiple generations down the road can have a similar or maybe even better experience.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Is that possible?
I
We'll
think
see.
so.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so Leave No Trace. Maybe you've heard of Leave No Trace. Many people have, but maybe you haven't. So a little bit of an overview of what Leave No Trace is.
Great.
Before we jump in. So Leave No Trace has been around, I think, according to my research, for about 25 years. Maybe a little bit more.
Nice.
Más o menos, 25 years. And it's basically, it's an environmental ethic, and it's, this is kind of a group of people came together 25 years ago from the outdoor industry, from the land management community, and we're kind of responding to this call to protect the natural lands, and that's how Leave No Trace was born.
Cool. Yeah, the goal, right, is to encourage people to get outside and then also help them be aware of how they can do that so that people after them can do the same.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so there's 7 principles of Leave No Trace, and we want to just clarify right at the beginning. We're going to go through these principles, and they are, if this is this is an ethic. It's a kind of a general guide. It's not like a black and white sort of very strict rule book.
That's helpful.
It's helpful.
You won't get arrested if you don't do these.
Yeah, and there's some flex, there's some situational dependency on some of this stuff.
Sure.
You know
And
what
some
I mean?
cultural dependency too. So,
Yeah, cultural, situational, ethic, not a rule.
Perfect.
Okay, should we get into it?
Yeah, what are they? What
Oh
are
my
the
goodness.
7
I'm so
principles?
excited. Mm-hmm. Okay, the first one, this one's really important. Mm-hmm. It's plan ahead and prepare.
Yeah.
Plan ahead and prepare.
Maybe the most important.
It's probably the most important one
Yeah.
for many reasons. But basically, the general deal here is make sure and do your prep, do your research before going into any. A lot of these principles are framed for backcountry settings, like going backpacking or going on a big camping trip. But it can be for just a day trip or a shorter trip as well.
Yeah.
May not be as
A
much.
little outing in the park even. It's useful to plan.
Yeah.
Prepare.
Right. And so these are things like, knowing the weather conditions, knowing the terrain, having maps or GPS, or using AllTrails, as we talked about last time. There are so many things you can do to plan ahead and prepare. I think it's also talking about like avoiding places at like peak use, if you can, so going to places when it's not super packed. And, so why is it important to do trip planning, Sonia? Why? I mean, well, I'll answer it. Do you want to answer it?
No, go ahead.
Well, I think from a safety perspective, it's really important to help ensure the safety of people, individuals and groups when they're out there, you minimize the damage you do. And it helps if you have a goal for the trip, like, hiking a certain amount of miles or reaching a peak, prepping and planning prior to the trip
Yeah.
helps you achieve those goals.
Totally. And that can be just like, wearing the right sort of shoes, making sure you have sun protection, bringing a snack, bringing
Safe fun in the
water.
sun.
Yeah. Right. So it doesn't have to be these big trips that you're planning for. It can be sort of a little outing, even if it's just for 2 hours. If you're going to do a hike, having flip-flops on would be such a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plan ahead and prepare. That's one.
Yep. That's one.
Okay. Are you ready for two?
2.
Camp and travel on durable surfaces.
Nice.
Nice. So what does that mean? It means
Stay on the trail.
Stay on the trail. That's a big one. Stay on the trail. Don't blaze your own trail unless absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Again, this is the thing. It's not a strict rule. If you're on the trail and there's something like absolutely prohibiting you from moving forward, like a giant bear, for example, you may need to take a different path.
Yeah. Yes.
And so what are some durable surfaces? These are things like, if you can, hiking and camping on things like rock and gravel, dry grasses, snow, etc. Avoid camping within 200 feet of lakes and streams because there's sensitive riparian.
What's riparian?
Well, that's a great question. I think it's the flora and fauna, maybe
That
just
live, like,
flora
close to the
that are
water.
close to the water.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a sensitive habitat,
Yeah.
ever changing. And again, when you can, using existing campsites, not making your own campsite, using existing trails, not making your own trails.
Walking in the middle of a trail so that you don't widen it. You don't go walking on the edges.
Yeah. You may have seen this. You've been out on a trail and you're hiking around and there's like this little side trail that looks like it's a shortcut, but maybe a few people have gone on it. This would say avoid that little shortcut. Stay on the main trail. Let the plants or whatever grow back so that's not a little shortcut. Because then if everyone's doing little shortcuts everywhere, the trail becomes this wide, giant, crazy thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, it's also worth us talking about perhaps some exceptions to this. I mean, aside from like a wild animal threatening you, right? This one I think can be hard when you're trying to balance the spirit of adventure and exploration, right?
Right.
Where, it depends where you are. If you're in a national park or an established park, you probably want to be a little more mindful of this. But if you're in your backyard or some woods, I think you could be a little less particular and sort of explore and adventure. But
In your backyard?
some people,
Do people have trails in their backyard?
well, maybe it's not a trail. Maybe it's just like a bunch of trees and stuff. Like you don't
Yeah.
need to worry about finding a trail. Like just go play in the trees.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this has definitely got to be balanced with the spirit of play and not taking it too seriously.
Right.
Because then you become a rigid maniac.
Right. And that's no fun to
That's
be a
no
rigid
fun.
maniac.
Yeah, that's no fun.
Okay. That was number 2. What's
That's
number 3?
Number 3, oh, it's one of the best. Dispose of waste properly. Basically, that means pack it in, pack it out.
Okay.
What do you mean, Kay?
Pack what in and pack what out?
All your things.
Okay. So like, what if I have a Dorito bag? Oh, Doritos, not Doritos. What if I have?
Doritos.
I don't know why I said that. What
Yeah,
if I had?
you would take that bag of Doritos into your camping site, eat them, and then bring that bag out with you.
Okay.
Or
And
throw it away in
trash
a
can,
trash can
got
or
it.
something, if there's
Yeah.
a trash can.
Don't throw it into the bushes.
No, don't throw it into the bushes. This also goes for, this is an interesting thing that when I was introduced to the Leave No Trace principle, something that was kind of new and different to me was things like an apple core or like food scraps.
Right.
I was
Things
like,
that are biodegradable.
yeah, no, it's natural. I can throw it away. But what we learned was that depending on the environment, an apple core could just remain an apple core and not really break down for a long, long time. And if it's not like an apple native zone, animals can eat that and become
Yeah,
sick, or like all
basically-
sorts of stuff happens.
Yeah.
And it can be,
introducing
yeah.
a new plant into the wild.
Or like a banana peel, like in the
Yeah.
I don't know I forget what the number is, but like a banana peel in the desert can last like 500 years or something like that. It's
Do
like
you almost say banana people?
banana people.
That would have been great.
That's a separate
Yeah.
issue.
Separate podcast.
Banana people in the desert don't last long because they melt.
Yeah, but that was really new to me also. The sort of the things that I was like, well, these are natural, they'll biodegrade. I didn't think about the impact they might have. So yeah, that was a new one for me too.
It's also important here to talk about pooping in the woods.
Yes, if you're not like in a park and there's not a bathroom.
We're talking when there's not
more
a bathroom.
remote. Yeah. Or if you, for some reason, have a crazy emergency and have to go somewhere.
Wait, where
even
there's a
when
bathroom?
I don't know.
Okay. So the you may be, again, listeners, you may be familiar with this, but if you're not, this is fun and
Yeah.
exciting. Okay, if you need to poop in the woods or in the wild,
Yeah, what do
let's
you
just
do?
say, here's what you do. You dig a cat hole. A cat hole is a small hole, 6 to 8 inches deep,
Okay.
and you poop in there. And then you cover it up and disguise it. And you want to be at least 200 feet away from water sources or your campsite.
Okay.
You don't want to be
Yeah.
pooping right in your campsite.
That's right. Yeah.
Or trails.
Yeah.
And this is only in specific, not specific. This is only in places where you can leave your poop. Some
Right.
places, there's many places actually out there that are very that are very sensitive, and you need to pack that in. Well, you
Or
pack it
in your tummy.
pack it
and
in
you-
your tummy, pack it out in your
a-
little
a
wag
waste
bag.
yeah.
Waste bag. Places like narrow river valleys, like the Grand Canyon, for example. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be digging a cat hole in the Grand Canyon. There's nowhere to dig, really. It's tough,
Yeah.
and it's there's a lot of people going in there.
Yeah.
National parks a lot of the times, Joshua Tree,
Yeah.
places like that. Pack it in, pack it out.
I did have a scenario when I was with some little kids, some 5-year-olds, and in a park that had a bathroom, but there was an emergency bathroom need. Couldn't make it to the bathroom. So it was good to be able to keep these principles in mind,
Yeah,
and follow the rules that we could.
absolutely.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
that's number 3.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to keep it going. Number 4, leave what you find. Interesting.
This one's hard.
Yeah, this one is hard. This when we're talking about like historical artifacts, arrowheads, things like that. Or like cave paintings. If you come across some, ancient cave paintings, the idea here is, check it out, examine it. Don't touch them. Leave them be. Just
Take a
just
picture.
take a picture.
Don't steal the cave painting.
Don't steal the cave painting. Exactly. It's the idea here is leaving rocks, plants, and other natural objects as you found them, and also avoid introducing new plants, new things, or transplanting non-native species.
Yeah.
It's very important.
I do think there's a little bit of flex here. If you want to take something like fallen leaves, branches, things that are sort of at the end of their life. You know, they continue to give life by decomposing into the ground, but like sometimes we'll do some arts and crafts in parks and we'll gather some fallen leaves, and that feels okay. To an extent.
I'm also okay with taking the occasional rock.
Yeah.
Found a very special rock. I'm going to take this rock.
Yeah.
It's not. This is again. We're not. The Leave No Trace people would say don't do that.
Right.
Definitely don't do that.
Yeah.
But we would say, you know, there might be a time and a place for taking a rock.
Yeah.
Of course, if everyone takes a rock every time, then we have a problem.
Right.
Too little rocks, too few rocks.
Rocky Beach, no longer rocky.
Rocky Beach, no longer rocky, but
Yeah.
now it's just sand. Anyway, that's the general deal. Leave what you find. All right?
Yes.
All right. Number 5, minimize campfire impacts.
This one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, be responsible with your campfires. The idea here is that you want to, you know, if there is a fire ring already there or someplace to build a fire, use that. Don't create a new one.
Put out your fire when you're done. Make sure there's no burning embers before you go to bed.
Put it out with water, not dirt or soil. Soil can kind of it doesn't always put the fire out. You know, you want to stir it around. There's all these things. But
Yeah, if
basically,
there's a fire warning, don't start a fire.
It's almost, knowing where you're going, knowing the rules. There's many a time when we've camped in certain places and it's been high in Southern California, fires are not going to happen. And it's okay to camp, again, it is I think a very, it's a special part of camping. You got your s'mores, you got your campfire, but it's not required or necessary to have an awesome experience in the outdoors.
No, if you can't have a fire and you want a s'more, you can just use your cooking stove, a little propane tank.
Yeah, cooking stove.
You can still make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's number 5. Number 6, respect wildlife. That's a good one.
Rule of thumb.
We like the rule of thumb.
Mm-hmm.
The rule of thumb is you hold out your hand, you hold out your arm your arm at arm's length distance. How do you say this? Outstretched arm with your thumb up. And your thumb should cover up whatever animal you're looking at completely.
And then you know you're the appropriate distance away from them.
Right. So if you're looking at a bear and your thumb is up and the bear is larger than your thumb, you got to back away.
Yeah, I don't think people, well, who knows? They maybe get too close to bears knowingly, but more like I might find myself near a bunny and want to get really close to a bunny because I find them so cute. But I'll only get as close as the rule of thumb allows, so that I don't freak out the bunny.
Don't freak out the bunny. You know, it's about observing wildlife from a distance. Don't follow or approach them. Don't feed animals. It's also about controlling your own pets, or leave them at home. And, this is a good one.
Yeah.
I guess there's we were talking about this earlier, a little flex here too, because I think a lot of my old memories of catching lizards or, playing at the beach and catching little creatures.
Sand crabs. I used to catch a lot of fireflies.
Fireflies if you're on the East Coast or somewhere where there are fireflies. I think there's a time and place for that, for sure.
Yeah.
Again, Leave No Trace. We don't work for the Leave No Trace people, so this isn't 100% Leave No Trace.
Yeah. These are introducing the principles, and then, where we tend to find ourselves deviate slightly from them.
Yeah, and I think that the balance here is that, especially for kids, there's a value, and I would almost say it should be a requirement to interact with wildlife as a kid. Catching little creatures. Even I think there's a whole nother realm of hunting, and I'm totally for hunting when it's appropriate with the numbers and in the right season, and doing the version of Leave No Trace with hunting too. I used to do a lot of spearfishing, so I'm all about it.
Yeah, I think the
but
goal
not just
would
being
be
a maniac.
Right, interacting with animals and trying not to traumatize them.
Unless you're trying to kill them to eat them.
Right. Yes. Ideally not traumatizing them too much in that case too, but more like if you catch a lizard, make sure you release it. Don't maybe put it in a glass jar or something weird. Don't pull off its tail intentionally. That sort of stuff.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Okay.
That's great. Respect wildlife. Okay, number 7, be considerate of other visitors. This is also a very important one,
yes.
Which we often don't, maybe people think about this, but it's something that, a lot of the other principles are focused on, like nature. Don't, be careful with nature, stay on the trail, doodly-do. But this is all about the other people. And so it's thinking about how do I respect other visitors whether you're at a park or whatever, any sort of nature space, or even just day to day. This is good. This is transfers just to day to day. But remembering to think about we all play a role in other people's experience. So, it's like saying hello, making eye contact,
Sure.
not being a maniac on the trail, like giving right away.
Trail etiquette's
Trail
really
etiquette.
important. Like,
Yeah.
if you're mountain biking, like know sort of what you're supposed to do when you come across other bikers, horses, people, that sort of stuff, so that it doesn't ruin someone else's experience. So it's about everyone being able to enjoy nature in a park.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, totally. And I think there's
Music's also a big
music's,
one.
like
Yeah.
walking around with a boombox playing music. May not. I mean, chances are everyone's gonna like your music, but it's possible that we don't.
Everybody thinks their music taste
Yeah.
is divine, but
So again, it's like with sound, with like even wearing. We've talked about like wearing really brightly colored. Oh, what? It was on silent.
Yeah, brightly colored clothes, things like that. It can be visually sort of distracting, but I don't really mind that too much. I get it, but the clothes thing doesn't bother me. It's more the music thing that bothers me.
Well, this is an interesting thing too. We won't get way into it, but then there's like a cultural piece of this where people could be like, "Well, my culture plays music, and in the outdoors, and this is part of what we do." And so, yeah, it's a challenging thing.
Yeah, I think
Respect
when you're in
my culture, but
when you're in sort of a park, a shared park, like if you want to play music, just don't blast it. Like make it so that you all can enjoy it, but that other people have the option, if they want to enjoy it or not.
Yeah.
But
Great.
yeah, I get it culturally, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, so those are the 7 principles. Leave no
Yeah.
trace. Again, it's an ethic. It's not a strict set of rules to be adhered by no matter what the cost, but it's kind of just a framework to work with.
Right.
And again, with the idea of Earth Day here, this is a great way to be respectful of Mother Earth.
Yeah, so that was plan ahead and 1 was plan ahead and prepare. 2 was travel and camp on durable surfaces. 3 was dispose of waste properly. 4 is leave what you find. 5 is minimize campfire impacts. 6 is respect wildlife. And 7 is be considerate of other visitors.
Great summary.
Thank you.
Oh my, you know what time it is now?
I think I do.
What time is it?
New news.
New news. That stands for Nature Unplugged News, if you didn't know. NU News. Sonia, you're up for new news.
Yes. So I found this delightful article about, well, the premise of the article isn't delightful because there was recently a Czech Republic lockdown because of the pandemic. And this focuses on zoos who are struggling to keep their chimpanzees entertained. I didn't realize, that was a thing, but it sort of makes sense. And I guess when the people aren't there visiting them, they get bored pretty quickly. They like each other, but they also like seeing people and having, people outside their exhibits. And so two zoos decided to set up, get this, FaceTime play dates between the chimpanzees. So they installed these big screens in the chimp enclosures and they shared a live stream of what the other chimps were doing. So there was live screens and big screens in both and live streaming. And it sounds like, this is a recent experiment, and some of the chimps are more into it than others. But it does seem to be improving their quality of life, which is what the zookeepers were going for. But how funny is this?
That's a great episode. That's a great segment for new news.
Yeah.
It's great. I think...
is that something you would have guessed, that chimps would be sort of bored without the people
Yeah,
around?
I think so. It makes They're like people. I feel like... I don't know how isolated... They're not isolated, right? They have other chimps around, but maybe they get bored without the people.
Yeah, there's like nothing
They want to...
beyond the walls.
Yeah,
right now.
I think totally.
Yeah.
This
I
makes
really
sense.
love the chimp exhibit at the San Diego Zoo is like one of my favorites. They're so fun to watch.
The chimps are great.
They're just running amok constantly.
Yeah, they're probably just sitting there. I don't know if the San Diego Zoo is probably... Maybe it is reopened now, but it's probably closed for a long time. Maybe we can get this going in the San Diego Zoo.
Yeah, I'll call the zoo.
Call the zoo
I'll
up.
let them know.
FaceTime for chimps. That's a great new news segment. And again, new news, we're highlighting fun, sort of funny, weird, strange news around nature, around technology. How to be balanced.
Yeah, if you ever see something and you want to send it to us, let us know and we'll feature it.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts on new news. I guess, are we going to have an issue with chimps having screen time issues in the future?
I don't think so.
What if they start doing video games for chimps?
Don't think that's
Oh, they could start doing it.
They could.
We could do a Nature Unplugged workshop for them.
Right. Presentation.
All right, chimps, listen up. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Nature Unplugged podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. You can find our episodes on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. And we're now on YouTube. What? We'd love it if you could take a moment to rate and subscribe us on Apple Podcasts and like us on YouTube. It helps us a ton. And be sure and visit www.natureunplugged.com for more information and resources about our coaching, workshops, presentations, and retreats, as well as other free resources like this podcast. You can also find more detailed show notes on our website, of course. You just click free resources, then click podcasts. Thank you so much for listening to the Nature Unplugged podcast, and remember to experience Nature Unplugged.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Things change like seasons out of our control. If you think you should go, I will let you go.